Leclerc did not crash out of Monaco because he suddenly forgot how to drive. He crashed because his Ferrari stopped giving him brakes he could trust. At his home Grand Prix, with the entire Principality watching, Leclerc arrived at Anthony Nogues with one brake working properly, one brake only half working, and both rear brakes gone. 3 of 4 brakes failing. In Monaco, in a Ferrari. Then he hit the wall, the red flag came out, and the story exploded. Because after the race, Leclerc refused to take the blame. He said the data was clear. He said the asphalt did not help, but the brakes were the real problem. And then he said the line Ferrari never wanted to hear. This was borderline dangerous. But here is the twist. Hamilton's Ferrari was running a different brake configuration, and he finished second. Now Leclerc may have to switch to Hamilton's setup. Ferrari's internal direction is under pressure, and the team has to answer one brutal question. Why was Leclerc racing in Monaco with a brake package that could collapse when the safety car cooled everything down? Because if Ferrari cannot fix this immediately, this is not just another Monaco heartbreak. It is a warning that their championship fight could be destroyed by the most basic thing in racing: stopping the car. Subscribe to the channel. Monaco did not create Charles Leclerc's brake crisis. It revealed it. That is what makes this story so uncomfortable for Ferrari. Because if Leclerc had simply made a mistake, the explanation would be painful, but simple. He pushed too hard. He missed the braking point. He hit the wall. Monaco punished him, the way Monaco has punished hundreds of drivers before. But that is not what Leclerc said. He said the data was clear. He said the deteriorating asphalt did not help. And then he described something no Formula One driver wants to feel at Monaco. One brake working properly. One brake only half working. 2 rear brakes not working at all. That is not a balance complaint. That is not a driver saying the car felt a little unstable. That is a racing car losing the basic ability to stop in a straight, predictable, trustworthy way. And at Monaco, that is terrifying. Because Monaco is not a circuit where drivers have time to negotiate with the car. There's no wide runoff waiting if the braking feels strange. There's no gentle gravel trap to absorb the mistake. There is only wall, carbon fiber, and the immediate judgment of the world. Leclerc knows that better than anyone. These are not just streets on a calendar for him. This is his home. Every Monaco Grand Prix carries a different emotional weight. Every camera is sharper. Every mistake hurts more. Every retirement feels personal. So when he crashed at Anthony Nogues, it looked from the outside like another cruel Monaco chapter for Leclerc. But from inside the cockpit, it was something else. It was a car giving him no clean answer. And that is why his reaction after the race was so strong. Leclerc was not trying to escape responsibility in the usual way drivers sometimes do. He was drawing a line between a mistake and a failure. He was saying, if I make an error, I will accept it. If I look like an idiot because I made the wrong call, fine. But not this. Not when the brakes stopped behaving. Not when the data supported it. Not when the situation became borderline dangerous. That phrase matters because Formula One drivers do not use it lightly. They live with danger every weekend. They understand risk better than almost anyone on Earth. They do not panic because a car is difficult. They do not call something dangerous just because it costs them points. So when Leclerc says borderline dangerous, Ferrari have to listen. And this is where the story moves from one crash to a much bigger internal problem. Because Leclerc's brake trouble did not appear from nowhere at the exact moment he hit the wall. The warning signs had already been visible earlier in the weekend, and even before Monaco. There had been ongoing concerns about braking inconsistency, especially when tire and brake temperatures dropped. The issue had already been described as a nightmare in cold conditions. That is important, because the crash happened after a safety car. A safety car looks calm to fans, but for a Formula One car, it can be brutal. The cars slow down. Tires lose temperature. Brakes lose temperature. Pressures change. The systems fall out of the perfect window they need to operate properly. Drivers weave, accelerate, brake, and search for heat because they know the restart is coming. But Leclerc's car did not recover the way it needed to. The brakes cooled. The balance collapsed. And when he needed the car to stop, the system gave him something unpredictable. That is the nightmare scenario. Not because a brake problem is rare in racing, but because at Monaco, a brake problem removes almost every option. Leclerc explained that he tried to react from inside the car. He tried different maneuvers to bring the system back. He tried to find a way out. But if the rear brakes are not working and one front brake is only partially working, the car is no longer slowing evenly. The front left bites. The rest of the car does not follow properly. The vehicle twists into the braking zone, and suddenly the driver is not choosing a line. He is trying to survive physics. That is why the final corner became unavoidable. If he did not brake, he risked arriving at turn 1 with no chance. If he did brake, the imbalance could snap the car. There was no good answer. Only a bad one now, or a worse one a few seconds later. That is what makes his anger so understandable. A driver can accept a car that is difficult. He cannot accept a car that gives him no safe solution. And Ferrari now have to answer the question everyone is thinking. Why was Leclerc exposed to that in the first place? Because this was not a completely unknown direction. Ferrari had 2 different brake configurations running across their cars. Hamilton's car had one configuration. Leclerc's car had another. And after Monaco, the reports pointed toward Leclerc switching to Hamilton's configuration for the next race. That is the detail that changes everything. Hamilton finished second. Leclerc crashed out. Hamilton's brake setup survived. Leclerc's became a public crisis. That does not mean Hamilton did anything wrong. It does not mean Leclerc chose foolishly. It does not mean one driver is suddenly the technical leader in every area. But it does mean Ferrari had 2 paths inside the same garage, and one of them looked far more stable when Monaco became chaotic. That raises a brutal internal question. If Hamilton's configuration was safer and more consistent, why was Leclerc still running the other one at his home race? Maybe the answer is performance. Maybe Leclerc's setup gave him a sharper feel when everything was in the perfect temperature window. Maybe it suited his aggressive style. Maybe Ferrari believed the risk was manageable. Maybe the team expected the system to stay under control. But racing does not reward what should happen. It punishes what does happen. And what happened was catastrophic. Leclerc's Ferrari could not give him reliable braking after the safety car, and the race ended in the wall. That is why the word revolt fits the emotional reality. Not because Leclerc is trying to tear Ferrari apart, but because he publicly refused to absorb blame for a technical failure that made him look responsible. He pushed the issue out into the open. He demanded a proper investigation. He made it clear that Ferrari's data supported him. That is a revolt of accountability. And for Ferrari, that may be more uncomfortable than an angry radio message. Because when a driver complains in the heat of the moment, teams can sometimes let the emotion fade. But when a driver calmly points to data after the race and says the car was dangerous, the problem cannot be buried. It has to be solved. And it has to be solved fast. Because Ferrari are not fighting for pride alone. They are fighting a Mercedes team that has already taken control of the season. Kimi Antonelli is winning repeatedly. Hamilton's second place in Monaco moved him into Ferrari's strongest championship position, but even he is still 66 points behind Antonelli. Ferrari cannot afford to leave points in the wall. They need both cars scoring. They need Hamilton and Leclerc attacking Mercedes together. They need Leclerc taking points away from Antonelli, Russell, and every other rival. Instead, Monaco left Ferrari with one car on the podium, and the other car retired after a failure the driver called dangerous. That is not a championship formula. It is damage limitation. And damage limitation does not beat dominance. The internal Ferrari dynamic now becomes fascinating. Hamilton joined the team as the global superstar, the 7-time world champion, the new arrival trying to adapt to Ferrari's culture and machinery. Leclerc was the established Ferrari reference, the driver who knew the team, the car philosophy, the emotional weight of Maranello. But Monaco may have shifted the technical conversation in one key area: brakes. If Leclerc adopts Hamilton's brake configuration, then Hamilton's side of the garage becomes the reference point for solving one of Ferrari's most serious problems. That is not just a setup note. It is a political detail inside a top Formula One team. Because development direction matters. Drivers influence it. Engineers study it. Teams quietly choose which feedback becomes the center of gravity. If Hamilton's configuration becomes the safer direction, Ferrari's internal balance changes, even subtly. For Leclerc, that adds another layer of pressure. He has to recover from a crash. He has to trust the car again. He has to accept a possible switch toward his teammates' setup. And he has to do it while the championship gap grows and the world watches Ferrari's every move. That is a lot to carry, especially after Monaco, because the emotional cost of crashing at home is not small. Fans may hear the explanation, but the image remains. The Ferrari in the barrier, the red flag, the missed chance, another Monaco heartbreak. Leclerc knows that many people see only the result. They see the driver crashed. They do not feel the brake pedal. They do not see the data trace. They do not know which brake was working, and which was not. They do not experience the car twisting under braking with no real solution available. That is why his public statement mattered. He was protecting the truth of what happened. He was saying, do not turn this into another driver error headline when the car gave me no safe option. Ferrari's data reportedly backed him. That is crucial, because without data, the claim would become emotional. With data, it becomes technical. And when emotion and data point in the same direction, teams must act. The Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile's track surface investigation adds another layer to the story, because Anthony Nogues had already seen Stroll crash, and reports suggested the asphalt was breaking up. Drivers criticized the surface, and the fact that two incidents happened in the same area made the corner itself part of the conversation. But Leclerc was careful. He did not ignore the asphalt issue. He said it did not help, but he kept the focus on the brakes. That distinction matters because it prevents Ferrari from hiding behind the track. Yes, Monaco's surface may have been a contributing factor. Yes, the governing body may need to review it. Yes, the corner conditions deserve attention. But Ferrari still have to fix the car, because the track surface did not create 3 failing brakes by itself. The brake configuration, temperature sensitivity, and system imbalance are Ferrari's problem, and Ferrari must own it. That is the kind of ownership championship teams show. They do not simply say the circumstances were difficult. They identify why their car failed under those circumstances, and they make sure it does not happen again. Barcelona becomes the first test. If Leclerc switches to Hamilton's brake configuration and immediately feels more confidence, Ferrari will have a path forward. But that would also make Monaco look even more painful, because it would suggest the solution was already within the team. If the switch does not solve it, the crisis becomes bigger. Because then the problem is not only one configuration, is a deeper Ferrari brake behavior issue in the 2026 car. That would be far more dangerous. The new regulations have changed car behavior across the grid. Different aerodynamics, different mechanical demands, different thermal windows, different power unit characteristics, different tire interactions.